Hi, and welcome to the 29th episode of the Wingly Update. I can't even remember the 28th show. Today I will be standing, not sitting and all alone. But we're going to have Mark appear twice today. The first time he's going to show us the TypeScript demo. And we'll talk about this. And then we'll do his kind of the regular changelog. And then if time permits, I'll go over a couple of good first issues that are interesting, that I found interesting. But let's see. So you all know him by DJ Mark, or by Mark the changelog, or by Mark the guy who is responsible of VS Code and TypeScript right now. I mean, actually, he touches a lot of stuff. So let's hear it from Mark.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's crazy to think that there was a period of time where I wasn't on the show at all. And
Right.
today I'm like the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of pressure, I gotta say.
A lot of pressure. Yeah. So what do you have for us today, Mark?
I'm gonna go over this kind of, I don't know, call it an initiative or not a feature, or just like an area of something that we worked on to get it looking good, which is using TypeScript with the Wing toolchain. I guess the way to start that out is how that's maybe already a confusing sentence.
Okay.
Right? Like, I this wasn't intentional, but saying Wing is ambiguous, right?
Okay.
Like, it's like you say Wing, and are you thinking of the language?
Right.
Or are you thinking of like the Wing, the CLI? And I guess like it's always good to remember that we're like Wing is a solution. Like, holistically, Wing is a solution. But it does also share its name with Wing, the tool chain.
Right.
And sometimes you'll say Wing instead of Wing Lang, just like you don't say Go Lang all the time. You might say
Right.
Go or Rust
Right.
Lang or Rust. Yeah. Anyway,
No,
so
not anyway. This is super interesting. Because for me, when I'm trying to say maybe Wing is a programming model, kind of, so it's a little lighter. But the thing is that I don't know, right? I mean, what will Wing? I know what I want to solve. I know what we're here to do. That's easy. We're here to basically, guys, just fucking write code, make it happen, build applications.
Democratize the cloud, right?
Yeah, democratize. I mean, just have fun writing, hectic feedback. I know exactly what I want the result to be. Whether it's going to be Wing Cloud or Wing Lang. I'm hoping it's going to be Wing Lang. I believe it's going to be Wing Lang and TypeScript. But I don't know. I have no idea. I'm definitely I want to use the Wing command line. Probably will never say the programming model. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, along these lines, I think related to a question that we both thought about and got asked a lot, still to this day, is why a language, right? Why a language? Why a language? Which is a good question. But like we thought about it. It wasn't automatic. This wasn't, the goal is the solution.
Right.
So, but we thought about it and we decided, like, you know what? Let's try out this language. Let's fuck around. Let's try something more inventive than the usual framework / library solution.
Right.
But we didn't go down the route of trying the framework. We thought about it a lot, and given the knowledge of all the people thinking about Wing in the early days, we're like, you know what? Okay, let's try it. But now, what I'm going to show today is the opportunity of like, well, let's see it. What if we try our best to make TypeScript work?
Awesome. Interesting.
In Wing as the solution, and also in Wing the toolchain.
Interesting. You know what was the? We're gonna show the demo right now. You know what the thing that kind of got me the most rational kind of point of view that kind of convinced me I wasn't convinced in start. I didn't think we should start with the language. I mean, just a little bit of it, but But the more, I mean, the thing that basically convinced me is saying if we're not going to start with the language and we're going to succeed, the language is not going to happen. I mean, it's something powerful. It's basically if we would do something else and it wouldn't be, and it would succeed, it would be extremely kind of hard to basically put effort on something else. And I kind of I'm in love with the language, with the pre-flight part of it mostly. The in-flight part is also there's nice stuff about it, really cool stuff about this, but it's there's still some gaps for it to compete with other languages. So yeah,
it's funny to think about that. So pre-flight is competing with basically every other IAC.
right.
And you know what? I think Wing wins that contest, or at least matches in even its early days.
Yeah.
In flight, you're competing with every programming language that's ever been made.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough competition.
Yeah, I want to. For me, it's. I mean, I haven't worked with Pulumi. I've worked with Terraform, CloudFormation, and I've seen enough of the AWS CDK and CDKTF. So I haven't worked with Pulumi, but Wing, for me, is much better than them. I mean, it's much more intuitive for me. But who knows? Maybe because I'm using it a lot. But I think I think that the experience is much better. So you're gonna share your screen? Are you gonna show us something, or you?
I am. Yeah, screens are ready to be shown.
Okay. Should we put your screen on screen?
Go for it. Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Ooh.
All right. So I'm starting out with Wing. So
Nice.
Familiar place. Just a trivial setup of an application that there's a bucket, a function, and a function that interacts with the bucket,
right?
And then a test that runs the function and checks the bucket's contents. This is I won't go over it other than what I just said as as a thing, and just because I'm going to use this as the simple example to say what would this look like in Wing? Because when you think about it, there is a lot going on here. There's a lot going on.
Like Wing? That's what you said?
What would this? Oh, sorry. What would this look like in TypeScript?
Okay.
My bad.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Because so there's a lot going on here that Wing takes care of for you. Even just on its own, the in-flight keyword is doing so much of what is this? What is this supposed to be? Because it's anyway. Oh well, let's go over that. This conversion, which I haven't tried doing with AI. I don't know if AI would be able to do it automatically, but
yeah. So I'm seeing kind of creating cloud resources. So there's a scope, there's the ID, there's some capturing, lifting, permissions. I don't know. Test bucket is also an idiom of the Winglang. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's so much happening here. I mean, even I was going to say bring. That's very important. That's one of our famous keywords. How can you match this?
Right.
Import? It's not the same.
No.
It doesn't have the same feeling.
Yeah.
So to start out with, I ran with a Wing new command to generate an empty project.
Yep.
But I specified the language as TypeScript.
Yep.
I should say that this feature has been out for actually quite a while now. I haven't covered it in any of the changelogs yet in preparation for, kind of more holistically talking about it here.
Yep.
That talked about, the new empty template created just kind of this bare bones TS file. I'm going to delete what's in it just we can start from more scratch.
Okay.
To talk about what's going on. And to recreate our Wing file.
Right.
So the way that the TypeScript framework, so I should say the name of the actual framework. We're calling it a framework. It's not a library. It's a framework. So this contains all this is a Wing application.
Right.
And this is the framework to build your Wing application in.
Right.
The language, however, is TypeScript.
Right.
So the way that it works is that your entry point, this is kind of we have a main.ts file, and to kind of match that, that concept, we have a main function that you call. Nice. And in this function, this is what creates your application.
Okay.
There are some reasons for doing this. I won't cover here, but it has some nice properties that, like, we have this root, which is our like kind of like the root of our tree of resources. This is again done for you in Wing, but we have to expose it some way in TypeScript for you to use. So let's
Yeah.
start with a bucket.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, kind of the underlining kind of provisioning technology here is based on the CDK, where there's a resource tree, right? I mean, or a construct tree. So what is the root of all constructs, or the head of the tree, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is basically like when you say new cloud.bucket in Wing,
Nice.
this is
Nice.
basically what's being done for you
Yeah.
already. Like injecting this root of the tree so that you know that this bucket is part of that tree, and automatically injecting an ID based on the name of the resource itself.
Right. Right.
So already right now, I can use this and run this. I mean, it's not particularly interesting, but I can do it. And it compiles to like the simulator, um,
Nice.
like it like you can see the. Oh, sorry. I should make this. Here's a tree. Like here's the resource tree. Like it created.
Yeah.
Why is there a function?
There isn't a function. There's nothing. There's no. You don't have any assets.
Oh, I didn't save. I didn't save this file. It was compiling the template
Oh.
version.
You had a function there? No, but you didn't have.
When you do Wing new with empty, it actually has some boilerplate.
Okay.
Or it has like just some boring stuff to show that it works. Here's the new tree. Okay, sorry. That was so I just didn't save the file. So here's the bucket, and it's just a bucket and some other metadata.
Yeah, now I see.
And this works. So right now, this already works for TF-AWS. This works in the same way any other Wing file would.
Right.
Use it Wing in the console and all that.
Right.
But let's actually do stuff now. Let's do the crazy part. Let's make a function.
So the crazy part is basically where when we think about TypeScript, it's not aware of the two phases, the inflight and the pre-flight phase, right? So the crazy part has to be somewhere around the inflight part.
So like when I look at this function, this argument that would be here, it's expecting a function handler. I'm like, okay, well what do I put here? Because the code that would run, like normally in TypeScript, you might write, maybe I want like an async function,
right?
That does something,
right? What's wrong with that?
Well, this is not an in-flight. This is just some TypeScript code. Like that's the kind of distinction. Like as far as you're concerned, there's no distinction between what's in here and what's out here, and this is kind of the core of why TypeScript doesn't inherently, work with this. That there is a difference. We can try to hide it. We can try to pretend there's not a difference.
No, come on. What's the limitation? I mean, why isn't it like? What would be the problem if it was working like this?
Because we'll see that Bucket, for example, has an API, and when you're referencing this bucket, it's the bucket that you created in pre-flight.
Yeah.
But that bucket doesn't. You don't have access to all the same APIs and knowledge that you would have in pre-flight. I can't create these events while in flight. You can't do this in Wing either.
Right. And I also want to see the get, the put, the list, the delete.
Yeah, that's not a part of that contract. So
yeah, awesome.
The way this works is you need to wrap your async functions in this in-flight concept, which again matching the keyword here. And inside this you can put a function. And now the red went away, and you'll know inside of this call that this callback is in-flight code. This will not run when you compile. This will run later in the function or wherever.
But I still can reference the bucket, right? I mean, I can still reference
you still can, but an important factor here, and I probably should have tested this, making sure this still works. But an important factor here is you can't so let's say you try to do some of this, some of these things. Let's say you try to. I don't even care. I'll let Copilot take care of that. Good. If you do this, and you try to compile it, this doesn't currently show up in the IDE, but there is a compilation error. So we have hooks into the TypeScript compiler to recognize when you're accessing the wrong like
Awesome.
phase of object.
Great error, man. Unable
thank
to
you.
access bucket in in-flight closure. Use lift bucket before the in-flight and reference the CTX.
Yeah, so here's some spoilers of
Okay.
what we can do
Yeah.
here.
Right.
So lifting, which is a concept that isn't implicitly done in Wing, although now there's just today there was a new feature to do it explicitly. But let's say, okay, I want to make sure this bucket is available inside of this in-flight.
Right.
So let's add this lift bucket.
Right.
Probably get rid of those spaces over here. So now what this did, and it's going to be hard to tell. Yeah, it's going to be impossible to tell based on this contract. But the first argument of this in-flight closure is a context object that contains everything that was lifted.
Yep.
And you can see here is bucket.
Nice.
Not only is it bucket, but it's a bucket client.
Nice.
So now this contract is no longer valid, and you'll have to say, one of these.
Okay. Oh, rename. I didn't know we have rename. Nice.
Oh yeah. Lots of pretty big. Bucket has probably the biggest surface area of any of our things
that we're implementing. Biggest surface area that we're implementing. Yeah.
I'm gonna copy paste just a previous version I had written here, where it just does a bucket.put and puts like some text in there, and then returns this value. I put a wait here, which is also an important distinction, is that in-flights are kind of inherently asynchronous. That's true in Wing too. We just kind of hide it. We say like, because it's always asynchronous, we just also always await by default.
That's my favorite in-flight feature of Winglang, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's definitely, you'll notice it when you go back to TypeScript and you have to write await every couple of lines.
No, I mean, especially when you write tests, it's just terrible. Test is basically await something, await something, await something, await something, assert something.
Exactly.
Terrible. Yeah.
So speaking of tests, I guess I should show that this compiles as well, just to
nice.
So everyone knows I'm not bluffing. Yeah, it compiles. But let's write a test, because I that seemed like an important enough feature to also kind of make it a first-class citizen here, like it is in Wing. Match that experience. Is it gonna do it for me? No. Well, okay. So test as a keyword, similar to the test or test as a function, similar to the test keyword.
Right.
Just takes in the name of the test. So let's say like bucket has a value, right? And similar to how tests work in Wing, this is also an in-flight itself.
Right.
So, and I'm going to want to use this bucket, and also I want to use this cloud function I made. So I'm just going to again copy paste.
So you're gonna lift both the bucket and the if-then. Awesome. And then
so now from cloud.bucket and cloud.function we have cloud.iBucket client and cloud.iFunction client.
Nice.
And these have, again, the APIs of like invoking a function or getting a key or getting a key, getting a value by key.
Are you using, what's assert is this? Are you using Wing framework assert or no? No need.
So this is a thing I want to talk about here. This is one of the harder features or more interesting features of how this works right now, that you can use imports at the top of your file within your in-flight. So the framework will take care of making sure that those imports are available in the in-flight for you. This works also for like third-party dependencies, not just node built-ins. And it also works for local files. So I could have a separate file that I import right here, and you can call into it from within your in-flight code. You don't need to lift it.
Nice.
So yeah, that's this is a test, and I can let me save this file and run Wing tests on here, and my test passes.
Wow. Can you show me the Wing run command? That's
or like Wing it, the console.
Yeah, Wing it. Yeah, the Wing it. Just want to see.
I can, although I'll need to share a different screen when I do.
Ooh. We can skip this. Okay. We can skip this. It's okay.
Okay, it does work. It's on my screen right now.
And it's hot. It does hot reloading.
It does hot reloading. Yeah, it's really like when you look at the TS file in this context, it's just a Wing file. Importantly, it's an entry point file. So I'll jump into limitations a little bit. That right now this is mainly it's mostly an experiment with regards to like making applications rather than libraries. So it's that's like the main focus of this. I would expect Wing to remain the best way to write libraries or you know.
So one of the limitations right now that this thing has, it's because of there's no way to also kind of classes that has both pre-flight and in-flight API, right? I mean,
Yeah, like you know, this kind of gets away with like this looks okay. It's definitely verbose, but it's kind of okay for writing closures. But like it's hard to even imagine what what is if I want to make an abstraction, what are my in-flight? How do I write my in-flight methods here? And
I
how
would
does that you know?
I would basically think it's going to be kind of like generics, not like the generics is not. I mean, so my bucket instead of generics just do like brackets.
Well, you want like a new syntax?
Yeah, I'm just thinking the brackets and then my bucket client or something like that. That's how I would, and it's two different interfaces. That you can't define them at the same class. It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can.
Yeah, something like that.
So like, I definitely experimented with options here.
Yeah.
Or my bucket client. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like it's just TypeScript. It really doesn't. It fights this. Like TypeScript's advanced. Like the type system's advanced, but this is not just a typing concern. It's pretty widespreading. So I'd like to look into it more though.
It can't. Maybe it's yeah. But we're not doing this right now. Right now, we're basically saying it's going to be easy to use this. Not, I mean, the lift in-flight part. But if you want to author classes, the best place to do this is Winglang. That's basically it. Awesome.
Yeah. I think if you want to make pre-flight only classes, this is still fine. Like if you want to still compose your resources and you can make multiple, like it doesn't have to just all be in one file. It can be a full TypeScript project. But you'll probably start to feel the pains of eventually of not being able to make kind of richer abstractions like we get in Wing with the multi-phrase approach. Like I mean, maybe that's the bet here, is that you'll feel it. You'll feel the like, oh, I really wish I could just make an in-flight method on this class. Like it's killing me.
Yeah. For me right now, writing kind of a TypeScript. So inside Winglang, our libraries are written in TypeScript, but inside the Winglang repo, or the Wing repo. But outside in WingLibs, those are Winglang kind of source code libraries, and it's much easier to write the Winglang source code. I mean, it's extremely easier. Not to it's much more easier. It's
yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. One last thing I'll show is a kind of like a fun, a fancy feature, I'd say, is so you have lifting, you have in-flight, but an additional thing you can do here is a grant. So this is similar to like in Wing right now. If when you write code like bucket.put inside of your in-flights, we automatically figure out that okay, you're calling put on bucket, therefore you need to make sure you have permissions to access put on the bucket.
Okay, so can I pause you for a second? Do you mind compiling this for Terraform for a second? I just want to take a look at the permissions.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. AWS. So what you should see here when we do this is that by default, anything that you lift will have full permissions of all the methods that are on a bucket.
The main TF JSON, and then you can look for get object. Here it is. Put okay. Now we're seeing get object, put object.
Yeah. So see how
we're seeing all the permission, although we're using only put. Now put is only abort and put object. So and we're not seeing this. So what you're saying basically, because you haven't added the grant functionality, right?
Well, there's no implicit. So like we don't have any basically the static analysis that we have in Wing to figure out that this is the case. And even if we did, there's something to be said about the fact that you still have access to all of these things. Like there's nothing telling you in the IDE, for example, that you can't do this. So let's go a little further here and say grant. And it's a similar looking API. It'll tell you like, okay, you have a bucket.
Nice.
So what do you want to grant to it? And you can do an array, and it'll
Oh,
give
nice,
you
nice,
the
nice.
options of what
Before
you can grant to
when
it.
when the array was empty, you didn't. Can you go back to an empty array? Now you have a problem because you haven't granted put. You see, there's an error in the bucket.
Oh yeah, I was skipping right past that. Yeah. So right now, this bucket doesn't have anything. I don't think. Yeah, there's no.
Nice.
You can't do anything on it because you haven't been granted any access. And if you give it put, oh sorry,
in a string,
you now have access to put. Or if you only have get, you only have access to get.
Got it.
And this should reflect in. You can try that right now. I didn't.
Before you do this, let's also do the bucket dot put in the second one in line 14, because just to make sure that's gonna work.
Oh yeah, just minimize the.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Yeah.
Although this will also get put and get because it has to. Oh no, never mind. It's invoking it separately.
Right. Right.
So yeah, this should look good. So we shouldn't see things.
Yep. We're only getting abort and put object. Wow. Awesome.
Okay, I didn't recognize abort. I don't know why we.
Yeah. I've asked about this, so I mean, maybe there's the option to. I don't know. It's
definitely less. It definitely removed the many other permissions that were on here.
Right.
So yeah, there you go. So now it's different than Wing, that where by default you get the limited restrictions, but it has a pretty easy tool to limit it down. And now it makes it part of the contract. So this is kind of different than how Wing works, where it gives you the power. This gives you full power and lets you take it away. And then now your API's expressiveness changes, which is interesting, a different way of doing it.
Right.
So that's my demo of the overall features of this. I think the overall vibe that people get from looking at this is, well, it's more verbose. Definitely more verbose. That's kind of like
side by side. Can you switch pages for a second?
I can try, although the TypeScript one probably will not even fit.
Okay.
So yeah, these effectively do this. These will do the same thing.
Yeah.
And you can even get it down to this.
Yeah. The only nice thing is that in the left side you can bring assert from node assert. And it's not easy to do this on. I don't know how to do this on the right side. It's
I mean, you can't. You can do extern.
Yeah, and then extern has clunky syntax, I would say, for doing something like that. You have to create a class, and then I mean, it's a lot.
It's definitely heavy, and again, this works with. So one thing about, I mean, I guess this is true in extern too, but you immediately have access to anything here. This isn't like you can import, Axios or Express or whatever you want. There's not a limit to what you can import here. And it's immediately available. It's not, you don't have to do the extern, jump through hoops and whatever. Yeah. So
it would be interesting to support this. It's awesome. The way to do this, it's bring a set. I mean, that would be just great if we could support this.
I'd be glad. I think I think I should mention that I do want to. I have an idea to fix, but if you make a const. This is a limitation where if you try to reference this in flight, in TypeScript, in Wing this would just work. It knows to do this lifting, but this will.
You have to lift this?
You will have to lift it explicitly. This should give you an error, or not? Did I fix that? I don't know. I may have. Oh no, I keep forgetting to save.
Okay. You don't have
there, yeah. So this is a fixable one. This one actually had, because there's no difference about the API of this does not change between the lifting.
Right.
So having to do this, and then this is pretty crazy, right? It's feels silly. And I think that one does have a way you can do it. Oh, can you import? You can import any library. I mean, at all. if you do import like JSI or other like or constructy like infrastructure based stuff, you totally can. You have to make sure that when you compile, that you compile with a target that works with that system, which is true in Wing too. That's
Yeah.
that's
So that's so you can import the TWS, the AWS CDK TF. You can import this, but you can import this on both sides, because on the Winglang side it's JSII, and I think you've done the work to allow importing this into Winglang, right? And so both on the left side, on the right side, it's possible. And I think kind of the CDK TF is the first class citizen, or any JSII is the first class citizen in the language.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, I should also mention that winglibs can so things written in Wing can also be imported in TypeScript.
Yeah,
not files, but like a published Wing library can be imported into TypeScript as well, which means you'll get access to. I should probably stop now, but you can like install with like the containers winglib
or locks.
Or locks. Like, you want me to do it? You want me to?
I'm good. Which is
you can install it and you can import it, and it'll work. It'll work in the same way it works in Wing. You'll get the full power of like, if it's a multi-target supporting thing, or it has simulator implementations, you get the whole thing with types.
Awesome.
As well.
Awesome. So you're not showing the new TypeScript in-flight, pre-flight stuff at all right now. The DTS file, the lifting mechanism, that's not, or is it part of the other mark that's going to do in the changelog? You're not.
It's actually not in that too, because I was already doing too much today.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think I have some fixes to do. There's some work that like. I'm sure I'll have something to say next time I'm on.
Awesome.
In the changelog about it. Great. We can go over it.
I played around with it today, and it's super interesting. Great. Anything else, Mark, on this?
On this, I'll be back. No, I'm good.
So I'm gonna play. We're gonna play a song. It's I don't know how to say nothing about the song. Not the. I mean, Altin Gun. That's the band, but the name of the song is something in from Netherlands in Dutch, and I don't know how to pronounce it. So let's hear the song, and after that we're gonna have the changelog with Mark. Whoa!
And we're back.
And what do you mean?
I mean, that gave me just enough time to pull up the changelog slides.
So the changelog, and by the way, if you guys want to send, I mean, I love the question from the audience. If you have any questions, just write it down, and the changelog. So let's show your screen. Yeah, good.
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. So what's how was doing the changelog this time, basically?
This was like I would call this a lot of dense changes. A lot of so I think one of the last ones was like a lot of bug fixes. This one's not a lot of fixes per se, but a lot of kind of like we're gearing up for something. It feels like a lot of fundamental stuff. Being changed.
Interesting. What from what basically kind of the stuff that Chris is working on, basically kind of saying this is the stuff that we actually need to fix before we I mean, let's fix this stuff, right? And the kind of a lot of stuff that just say, you know what, this has been here embarrassing enough time to let's fix this and let's put this behind us. So those kind of stuff.
Yeah, because we have there's a core initiative now from the maintainers to like figure out what it core pieces. It manifests as bug fixes, but also kind of just as we need to figure it out, like you say,
right.
Like you're saying, we need to let's fully understand what we're doing here foundationally.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's definitely related to that, where we've been kind of going through some of those.
Yep.
And yeah, definitely shout out to Chris, who I'll talk about some fixes he put in here, but he's been at the forefront of pushing that and organizing that to make sure we're prioritizing important issues quickly.
Yep.
So But let's not start with him. I usually do start with him, actually, in changelogs, as people
Oh,
have
really?
probably
I
noticed.
didn't know that. I didn't know
It's because
that.
he usually makes breaking changes. He's one of the more
Oh,
breaking
he's the
change
breaker.
guys.
Yeah.
But instead, I'll start with Alad, who also he's the other one who also
Wow.
makes a lot of the
When
breaking
Allah
changes.
breaks something, it breaks everything. It's yeah.
So this one's kind of like
Yeah. A
it's
good
kind
good
of
example. A good example of
it's
something that breaks a lot of stuff.
it's just like he come in and and then walk
Yeah.
away,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. I might have
um,
guys. I might have caused some issues for people. That's yeah.
But yeah, just the easiest way to put it is that, like, if you notice when you create a new cloud bucket or new cloud topic or whatever, any resource at all, in Wing it'll include the namespace that it comes from
Right.
in the automatically associated ID. So like
Right.
if you don't use as and then a
Right.
string,
Right.
you get an automatic ID.
Right.
Um, Now with this change, it just used the name
Right.
of the resource,
Yeah.
nothing with the namespace.
Yeah.
Um,
As
the
yeah,
Go for
I
it.
think there's a hint for us. Always avoid associating the name with something that can be refactored. Basically, I mean, it's even the class name can be refactored, and I believe that this is an issue. I
Mhm.
believe that for not for bucket, but for your own classes, I believe it's an issue. I want to change my class name, basically. So, but I think that's a hint for us. Um,
No, yeah, it's. I think the bad part about how namespaces were working is that it should be clear that we're not talking about like a fully qualified
right,
name
just
of
how
where it's
it's being
defined.
imported. Right.
Yeah, which is that that's like even that's a refactor that
Yeah. No one would
doesn't
think about
it was confusing why it was even happening.
it. Yeah. Right.
It was
Right.
so.
It
I
is
think we still want to include like a fully qualified name in the ID if possible. I think that was talked about in the issue, but you're right in the we need to be careful about what we
yeah.
because we're doing this automatically.
Yeah.
It's we don't want to put people in a bad situation that they didn't decide for themselves to be in.
Right.
Um,
Right.
it's worth noting as like a to get around this, you can like if you do new cloud.bucket and you don't want your things to be changed out from under you, it's a good idea to use an explicit ID whenever
Right.
when possible if you want to be
Right.
be careful with that.
Right.
Um,
That's
and we're also there's some work happening to figure out like the long term plan of how do we make sure that you don't like destructive changes like this
right.
don't kill you immediately and provide you no tools to be
Yeah.
be safe.
There is an issue for resource spinning, right? I mean, is that
Yeah.
someone actively working on right now? You know?
I I am I
Ah,
wrote
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's the thing you have to do. Now you're once you're done with the TypeScript, you're going to be back to resource spinning,
It's on
right?
the list.
Yeah.
It's on the list of things.
Yeah. So I think
Um,
resource spinning is a mechanism to allow you to deal with those issues when it's changing. But I also think that we will have to spend more time with kind of the default ID versus kind of a bucket name. There's a lot of moving parts that we haven't figured out yet in this. But the resource spinning is important for any backward compatibility issues. Yeah, awesome,
for sure.
great. Thank you, Elad.
Uh,
Thank you for this feature.
and next up, that S is
Hmm.
going to bother me. It's right here, but whatever.
Yeah,
So I combined a couple changes into one slide just because I they're both kind of related, although not necessarily. But so overall, there's two big changes that happened from Chris during the
yeah,
last couple weeks.
yeah,
One is that in-flight functions, like in-flight code, now runs in its own. They each get their own node process, entire process. And previously we were kind of half sandboxing the code in a node in a node VM, which is just there were like 7 issues related to this that weren't like necessarily something that we're doing wrong. It's just like limitations of that using VMs for isolation like that. So
yeah,
I think we kind of always planned to get away from that, and now Chris finally we were able to
yeah.
get that done.
The VM bugs were nasty. I mean, I was
Yeah.
comparing two similar arrays, empty arrays, and it says no, it's different. Forget about this because they're not coming
Yeah.
from the same VM. There were nasty bugs. Now we have a different set of nasty bugs. The
Do
fact
we?
that
Is there
so
like
we
new
did,
ones?
so in some occasions we rely on the fact that we are running on the same runtime, right? I mean, the fact that my in-flight and your in-flight is using the same runtime. There was, I mean, the WebSocket. There was they had to share WebSocket, so it was done on a
Uh,
global variable. So
yeah.
so there's some occasions, and I don't think we have the right mechanism to prevent someone from making a mistake. But I think we always knew it. We have to move away from the VM for the node one. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's also there's a lot of more power, like the concurrency stuff, and it's much more powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, and quickly to talk about that, right now I think both Chris and a lot, or maybe just Chris is actively working on like kind of that issue you're talking about, like
Oh, really?
basically figuring out this like problem, because it's not it was a problem before too. Like it
Right.
wasn't like it's not a new problem, but like we're narrowing down the problems. Like now it's not, now it's like, okay, the design of I believe this is also related to like service, like cloud service, like things that are like stateful functions. I mean, almost. It's not. I'm oversimplifying it, but it's being worked on. It's being. It's definitely. And it'll be another. I'm sure it'll be another huge thing to slap on this changelog as well.
Right.
Awesome.
But
yeah, having the separate processes unlocked. It wasn't technically a requirement, I don't think, for doing like implementing a way of doing modeling concurrency in these functions, but it sure makes a lot more sense to say that you have a pool of processes that you pull from to execute work. I think it's kind of like a really super normal and consistent with how most clouds probably work under the hood.
Right.
And now we can match that. Now we have that similar model of like we pull from a pool and we reuse processes.
That's actually super powerful. The fact that we're reusing this, because the reusing kind of cloud function is a capability. I mean, lambdas. Let's go all the way to AWS. Is a capability that is used when people are writing software lambda. You want to use the connection to your database between invocation if the lambda is so you want to take this into account when you're actually writing the code. I think that's important. That's an important part of the simulation. Basically, we want cloud function to simulate the lambda function, Google Cloud Run function, and other fuzz. Awesome.
Yeah, I think I have some opinions on this concept that about like, because you don't like always get reuse. That's not like a guaranteed mechanism.
No.
So it's like in the simulator, it probably is more guaranteed than you would get in some other cloud environments. It's not 100%, but it's definitely,
because it's a pool here. So it's a pool, and we're not closing them down. That's what you're saying.
I mean, for many reasons, like they don't ever go to sleep. Although you could say that the simulator probably isn't very long running.
Right.
So like,
interesting.
It's different, and I don't know. I'm not. I won't go down the rabbit hole, but it's still. I think it's part of the conversations regarding the other thing I was talking about, like cloud service.
Interesting. So basically, awesome. So a shout out for the people who are using the simulator. If there's something that you want to replicate in a more fine-grained situation, maybe it's something that should be part of the console, part of the simulator. I want to basically kind of drain all of them. I don't know. Maybe there's some options here. I don't know. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes. But I mean, the core thing here is, just to finish off the slide, is switching to full processes for in-flights was a huge bug fix on its own. And now we also model maximum concurrency in these as like part of the API surface area of functions, which can also be implemented in other clouds as well.
Right.
I don't think we have yet. Maybe we have.
I don't think we have max. Do we have max concurrency? I don't think we have max concurrency right now at all. Do we have it as a property?
Well, I'm using so concurrency.
Okay.
I think in the simulator implementation, I think is basically the
Okay. Concurrency is max
same.
concurrency. Okay,
And I
maybe.
think there might be a distinction, and maybe that's something else to talk about. Like anyway, well, because
Yeah.
there's like concurrency in AWS also has two meanings depending on what you mean. Like there's reserved capacity or reserved concurrency, and then what's the other one? There's like a different word.
There's preserved concurrency, right? So I mean, this the one. I mean, I don't know. I think there's three options on Lambda. That's
Oh man,
I think.
I thought that's more than more than I thought. Okay, well, so I think there's some nuance to it, but I think the one in the simulator is basically maximum
Yeah.
concurrency.
One of them
It's like
makes
where
sure that
it'll
you have
throw.
it. Yeah, it's crazy. One of
Like
makes sure
your
you have
function,
it.
if you try to run too many functions at once, the simulator will throw an error
Nice.
based on your concurrency
Nice.
setting.
Interesting. One of the people that we were talking to, kind of from a POC design perspective, basically said that one of the problems that they released a new version and they didn't have maximum concurrency on one of the lambdas listening to the SQS, and there was a lot of events on the SQS queue, and basically there was a starvation for all the other lambdas because they didn't have max concurrency set up for that specific one. So that's something that we want to put in a policy as an example. You should have all your lambda function with max concurrency as an example. Awesome.
This goes well with like queues too, which have like
Right.
batch sizes and also their own set of concurrency to like it's a whole set of other useful part of the primitives that we have.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right, another big thing
Nice.
to talk about.
Yeah.
I think in the last changelog, I mentioned that Hassan also implemented platform parameters,
Right.
which I should probably talk about after this, but I'm going to front load this conversation by saying platform parameters are like a way to define like, okay, the platform needs these arguments, like it needs these parameters, and with that it can change the behavior of how the platform works. Like maybe it'll instantiate resources differently or configure them differently based on these parameters. And a use case that came up was, well, how do we, like, if you make a library in Wing, how do you make sure that consumers of the library can have, like, how do you make use of these options? How do you define and then use these options in your library?
Yeah.
Because platforms right now are loaded by the consumer. So how do you just tell them, hey, make sure you load this platform when you use it? Not quite a great experience. So this change allows you to make W platform.js files. I think you can also have a prefix as well, a dot or whatever prefix.
Yeah, you can.
And if these files exist in your project, they will be automatically loaded as like a platform for your project.
Yeah.
And this works with that use case I was just mentioning, where you can make a library and you can have these files in that project. Possibly like saying like, okay, hey, make sure you have like this parameter, or this is optional, but you can have this parameter. Maybe you provide it. The library now does something differently when compiled, which is a pretty huge difference. Yeah. So, yeah, that's like it's a big deal. Yeah, a big shift in like platforms are becoming like we want to keep working on them. They're not just something that you don't just do -t and then TF-AWS. There's a lot of world underneath like what a platform means, and I think I'm really glad we're expanding on it.
Right. It's in many ways it's I think that the fact that you can compile this and kind of and customize your platform is what makes this project kind of I mean it's suitable for large organizations, and I'm seeing this right now when we're doing POCs with large organizations. They're using this capability they're actually using this capability heavily in order to customize Wing to work similar to how they right now provision software, and it's used more and more. And this thing also. What do you think about the fact that we have a W platform kind of default file that automatically gets read, and there's the A dot and it also gets read? What's your kind of kind of Mark's opinion on this from a language design perspective and toolchain perspective?
I mean, I'm not huge on the W part. I kind of wish they would just call it platform.js. But
Okay.
I mean, holistically, I do expect these to be written in Wing eventually.
Okay.
And they would look much nicer in Wing. They would make kind of more sense. And I don't know. Other than that, I think they'll be written in Wing, and maybe it'll just be called platform.w.
Okay.
You know.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm kind of. I've loved where Hassan has taken this so far. I read like all the the direction we've gone down. So
Right.
it's in his capable hands.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
I think that the fact that the event bridge Winglib already uses this and it works out of the box, I think that's great. I think it's I mean I'm always careful of all this hidden stuff that gets read if it's there and if it's not. That because I'm cautious to what is going on here. What's happening? But it this already get used, and the other side of it is being extremely verbose. So I'm looking at this with it's with a fresh eye for me. I was always against these kind of shenanigans. Awesome.
I think the one thing that saves it for me is that, and I won't speak for Hassan on this, but when I see Wing programs, I feel like there always are implicit, like there always is an implicit platform. Like there's always a platform of some kind. Like, and by default, it's just the sim. But
Right.
you could say that, like, you could basically say implicitly that there is a W platform file at the root of any project you compile that just says, yeah, just use the sim platform. It's basically your default. So like so that's why, like, to me, the implicitness of this isn't really any crazier.
Interesting.
It's just like it just kind of is expanding this concept.
I
won't over-index on that because he didn't say that, but that's how I feel about it.
Interesting. I like it. I like this point of view. Awesome. Thanks, Hassan. And W stands for winning, not for wing, Mark.
Oh, okay. Cool. Next up, a more like regular good feature, not something like, I think it's something that's come up as a bug several times. So really, really happy to see it. And it's been confusing. It's not just a bug, but it's been strange. So I believe we've had it so that the schedule, so for example, schedule takes a cron expression as a string.
Yeah.
And depending on where you deploy this to, it would have different behavior if you use certain notation. As I say here, like having all stars is valid in a normal cron expression, but in AWS it doesn't work.
What does it? It means every minute? No. What does it mean? All stars? Do you know?
Oh, I forget.
I don't. I used to be so good at crons when I was younger.
Cron things are like it's what's like it's one of those things I never actually remember. I just have to look up every single time I've done it.
Yeah.
And I've done it before. I've done it several times, and I've done like Linux, on Linux systems. I've done it, but I never remember.
Yeah, I was a Linux sysadmin. I knew how to do this, but I knew what, and I don't remember it anymore. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, this didn't work in AWS, and this did work with a question mark in the last one, or a question mark in certain places.
Annoying.
Worked, but not anywhere else. So now, standardizing on like the more standard version, like the Unix style of cron expressions, and then doing some automatic work to do the conversion to make everything just work.
Awesome.
Works on my machine, works everywhere type of improvement, which we love to see.
Thanks, Marcio, for doing
thank you so much, Marcio. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's that one.
Yep. Thank you, Marcio.
I'll put my face here. So right before this, you're telling me this doesn't work, which makes me sad.
It works for my TypeScript. It doesn't work for my Winglang. We're gonna figure this out. It makes me sad as well.
Well, I will. So I'll get right on it after we get off of this. But it worked on my machine.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know what your problem is.
Yeah, exactly.
But debugging. So debugging is something that's kind of always kind of worked in a way.
Yeah.
If you knew the right sequence of buttons and knobs to push,
I didn't know that.
kind of worked,
Never
but it
worked
was
for
never like good.
Yeah.
It required using extern usually
Yeah.
to like because like you can use
Debugger.
the debugger
Okay, the
to do it.
debugger. Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it was just it was not good. And it broke actually. So in-flight debugging didn't even work recently with the change I mentioned before that Chris did with the
Right.
processes.
Right,
It didn't
right,
even work really.
right.
So
Not even the debugger. Nothing worked. Yeah.
but so I put a fix in for the in-flight, and then I was like, you know what? Can we just make breakpoints work real quick?
It's crazy.
Turns out it was not hard to do. I mean,
Because
assuming I
because
didn't.
you already have kind of the what's it called? Not the dynamic symbols. What's the fact
Source
that you
maps.
the source map, is that related but or not?
Oh yeah. That's so source maps. There's like a lot of pieces, I guess, come together
Yeah.
for this to work.
Yeah.
But source maps are a core part of this
Right.
because otherwise, because the thing that's running is the JavaScript.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it in VS Code or in most debuggers, like they have a
Right.
workspace and they see like, okay, I'm running this code right now,
Right.
and I see that it corresponds to like this code over here, so they can then and then it does the source mapping.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it works. You can set breakpoints in Wing.
Yeah.
What's that?
It works on your machine. Yeah.
It works on my machine.
Yeah.
I think it works for a lot too, right?
Yeah.
So sounds like a you problem. I don't know, man.
Yeah. 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 I'm gonna open a bug.
Okay.
And then it's gonna become a you problem again.
I'll be happy to look at it. But the core thing is that we're using JavaScript tools that already exist. Like that's
Right.
kind of if we had to design a debugger from scratch, we might have some problems. It might take us a little longer, but with this, you can already have access to debugging both pre-flight and in-flight. You can set breakpoints. You can step through. You can you can set watch. You can make a watch, and you can do all that kind of stuff that you're used to with debugging.
I haven't changed my demo. I haven't changed my demo for a long time. Today we took a cab to one of to a meeting, and I said, Uri and Ella told me about this feature. I said, I'm going to change my demo. I said, you're going to change your demo? I said, yeah, debugging in London. That's why we joined this company. I mean, that's the reason I can put a breakpoint on the queue. I mean, not on the queue yet, but on the Lambda.
On the handlers, and it's. I mean, I should say it's. I don't know if it was clear too, but this is for the simulator. So like this is only for learning like Wing Test or Wing Compile or anything that runs locally.
Yeah.
Cloud debugging is pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
I think it's technically possible. I mean, the under the hood debugging is just for JavaScript. It's running a server, a WebSocket server.
Yeah,
sending information.
I think we should emphasize all our effort to get you to a point where you don't need to do debugging in the cloud. Mm-hmm. But also, let's be practical. Until we get there, from time to time, we're gonna need to do debugging in the cloud. To figure out how to get to this point. So it would make sense. Awesome. Thank you, Mark. I love the features that are not written in any board. These are the. If it's not written in any board, someone said, you know what? I think I could do this in 2 hours, and then 3 days later, said I've done this. I think this is the best features.
First time I've ever heard a product owner type person say that.
Yeah.
I love when people just work on shit that isn't on the plan. Technically, this isn't the plan. Actually, I'm being hard on it. This debugging as a feature has always been on our lists.
I mean, you understand that we want to get people to really enjoy writing software for the cloud. You understand this. Then you're in a pretty good position, as well as your as your company product person, to make the decision of whether this makes sense or not. That's the important part, and it's easy. Now it might shift. Now we have to do this thing. But right now, let's just focus on that. That's why I love this feature, and I'm gonna change my demo for it.
Awesome,
man.
All right, let's go on.
Thank you.
I feel like we're doing bad on time. I have to look on the. You know what?
We
Is
need
the
to
show
run.
over? Actually.
So we need to run. Let's.
Okay.
Yeah.
This will be a tough one to breeze over, but I'll because like I'm probably gonna talk about this a lot on the next changelog. But especially because I think the syntax is gonna change by then.
Really interesting.
Yeah, there's already an RC talking about it, but so lifting is an automatic thing when you do bucket.put. If you did bucket.put on this, you would know, okay, the compiler knows that you're trying to do put on a bucket.
Yeah.
But if you do something like this, our compiler right now doesn't have any sort of like data flow analysis. It doesn't know that B is that bucket.
Exactly.
We know that it's a bucket. That's not hard, but we don't know that it's that bucket.
Right.
We don't know that it's exactly this one.
Right.
So when you do B.put, we're like, I don't know what you just did. I know you did a put.
I don't know where to put permissions. There's no the put object. I don't know where to place it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I right now, like before the last change that Yoav made, this was an error. It's because we're like, hey, I can tell what you're trying to do. It's not going to work. Stop here. Don't even try to go further with this idea. But with this new, I'll call it a function. I guess it's it's technically a function. Looks like one. Where we say, you know what? Preemptively, I believe this has to be at the top of a function, a closure. I want to say, make sure that bucket has these permissions. And once you put a line like this, our compiler will no longer complain about like, oh, I'm not sure that we're gonna know what permissions bucket needs, because it'll trust you as the user. Yeah. Like, hey, I know that you won't be able to figure it out, so I'm just going to tell you beforehand, and it just relaxes and lets it happen.
Right. Similar to what we saw in the lift mechanism or the grant mechanism, actually. Okay.
Yeah, very much like that.
Yeah, lift and grant. Awesome.
Except that this isn't like, so there is no automatic like, oh well, I guess I'll just give you every permission. That's we didn't go that route with this. You'll have to give us something. You'll have to say something specific.
Nice.
Okay. I would like to talk more about this one, and I'll probably show a better example because this highly relates to the feature with externs. Because imagine, externs are not your code, so maybe what if you want to say that the extern uses a bucket and uses permissions? You see where I'm going with it, perhaps. So, but we'll talk about it more next time. But this is definitely a big. The issue number on this one was like 70 something.
76.
76. So you can tell it's been on our minds for a bit. But yeah, definitely we'll see this one again.
Yep.
Thank you, Yoav, for working so hard. He's been working on the lifting stuff for feels like 100 years now.
For decades.
Yeah, for decades.
Yeah.
And I'll move on to a lot of the other Alad's change.
Yeah.
This is a small one, but it's like, oh yeah, this is super useful. We have a cloud.endpoint resource, and it really is just like a way of having this like data available about about endpoints, about things that are exposed in some way, like URLs.
Right.
And in the Wing console now, you can, if you have anything that uses that, or if you use one yourself, if you make one yourself, it'll show up in its own little area, in the UI.
Right.
To be able to click.
Right. I wouldn't say it's a small one. It's
It looks small. I mean, it's like it looks small. Sorry.
Very kind of. It's not quite often that we have a feature that in order to implement this, we need to also implement something in the back end that listens to the console and that does some basically connects the internet to your console. Well,
let's wait. Are you talking about, because Cloud Endpoint definitely is a big feature on its own, but Cloud Endpoint has that's already been
no, the exposure. The fact that you can expose Cloud Endpoint, basically you have a public URL. How can you have a public URL? We need something in the cloud.
I mean, this one
is
everyone can go to this URL.
No,
and you can hack me or your computer.
No, but you can, if you click on the I can show you. I can show you.
If you want. I mean, I was trying. We're over time.
We're over time. But you know what? I'll show this in the difference. I'll put this reminder. I'll show this example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's that. I only have one left actually.
Okay.
Last one. Another crazy big thing. I mean, it doesn't
Oh, the
like
UI button.
so. Bring UI. Bring UI. So like
Right.
that library, I believe it was Chris that created this. Like it was kind of like an idea of like, okay, what if can we model a user interface for these
Right.
as like pre-flight and in-flight? And like, what does that look like? It didn't work in the console, which is a shame because that's where you see it.
Right.
But Christian and added this so that now when you use Bring UI and you use the UI features like button or field or section, I believe is one of the other ones that exists to
Right.
like organize stuff.
Right.
This works in the console now. I forget if I talked about Bring UI on this
No, I
before.
don't think
Probably
so.
not.
I don't think you did.
I mean, it's kind of crazy how even maybe looking at it, like it's like, oh shit, yeah, that just kind of works, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
so a button, it's like this is like the label for the button, and this is the code that runs when you click the button, and it's like, oh, brain exploding. How cool is that? How
Yeah.
cool is that you can that's so like you can use like this dot counter, which is a it's like a pre-flight field in this class. You can
Right.
interact with it, and then you can make a field. So this is the label for the field, and this is what this is like the updating function. Like this like so this gets pulled, and it shows you like a value that you return from here. So this is like this will automatically update and
Right.
show you what's in the counter.
Right.
And that's why every time I click this button, then this will update.
Crazy. I've
Right?
already used this as basically it's a super powerful mechanism. Super powerful mechanism. Yep.
Yeah. Really excited to like see this be used more, both with more components or
Right.
but also like eventually when we use this for like a wing console that's connected to your actual cloud accounts. Like it's almost like a self-service system. Like it becomes like it goes pretty crazy. Like
Right.
how far this thought can go.
Right.
But for now it's already neat for the simulator use case.
Right. Right.
So yeah, great. Thank you, Christian, for adding it to the console.
Right. Yeah, it's super awesome, and it's going to be super useful. Super useful. Yeah.
That's it for the changelog.
Yeah. Awesome. I think we're done. I want to show the expose feature. Do you mind if I show it?
Please, yeah, go for it.
Let's do this. I'm going to present my screen. I'm going to do this quickly. I'm going to present my entire screen, so we're going to see ourselves in a second. Oh, okay. This is the application, get hello. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is the console, just as you can see. And now I have this. This is the.
Oh.
Now I can expose this, right? I mean,
I didn't know that did that.
Okay. This is important. Listen.
That is very cool.
Yeah. Let me just 1 second. Okay. I know what happened. There's a bug here with the target right now. Let me run this again. Okay. Now I can go over here and I can expose this. Now if I open this, let's go in hello. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I totally I do remember now seeing this. That's
yeah. So you can if I go back, this is a global. If I go back to my code and change this to Mark, what's going on, man? What is going on? This is not a small feature. And everyone that is watching us right now can basically go to the public URL. I haven't saved this, of course. And it's going to say, wow, what is going on? This is a public URL. So basically, we're giving the ability, kind of the ngrok capability to basically expose endpoints, any URL. Basically, anything that basically implements the URL. Let me stop the share. It's a crazy feature.
I'm really glad you showed that because I totally forgot that was part of it. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that.
So someone is showing this thing. Okay, nice, and thank you. Yeah, super nice. Mark, this was super awesome. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing both parts. It was fun talking to you.
Happy to be here.
And thanks. There's been a lot of viewers today, and thank you for staying with us. And man, I'll see you in 2 weeks at the 30th episode of the Weekly Update. And let's wrap it up with the same song. Let's do this. Where is the song? Here is the song. Bye bye. Thank you. I'll see you in 2 weeks or in Slack.